All right. Thanks again. Here we are, another episode of Kanata on the Rocks. I am your host, Fadi Kudair, and I'm joined today with Mr. Hussein Mahmoud.
Thank you.
Hussein, bro, we've been friends for a really long time, and we kind of went off a little bit you got busy with life, I got busy with life. You look really good, bro.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm a little bit heavier right now, but
I know, but you're filling in. You're looking good. You're looking
it's
great.
it's just fat. It's the right shirt.
Hey, man, I heard that you were trying to run at being a politician. Tell me a little bit more about that. What's going on with that?
Yeah, first
How
and
did that go?
foremost, I don't know, with all due respect to us, I don't think we're that famous. I don't know how many people are going to watch this show, but I'm excited to be here. So thank you for having me. Yeah, I ran in the last municipal election for city council in Gloucester Southgate. It's a very public thing. It's not something you can hide, and it's not something that the results are just so public where it's not like a regular job if you're doing good or doing bad. So I came second out of 6. It was a great experience. Someone like yourself who's been in a hunting role in sales, this is like the ultimate hunt where you're knocking on doors. You're getting, real life COIs, people from the community to back you. And it was a great experience. Although I didn't win, I look back and I learned a lot about myself. I learned a lot about my network. I was able to fundraise because it's not backed by a political party. It's all nonpartisan, so you have to get donations. So I was very proud of the work my team did. Obviously, someone who's super competitive. So not winning doesn't make me feel good or a moral victory that I came second. But I do think there's an opportunity, especially being an immigrant. Even though I was born here, my parents are immigrants. I think it's important for us to have proper representation, especially in a city like Ottawa that's super multicultural. So I think hopefully I laid the stepping stones for other people to try it, but it was a great experience.
And it's one of those where, like, if you don't try, you really can't tell where you kind of gauge yourself, what's going on, what's going to happen, kind of thing. You have to put yourself out there.
Especially your friends and my friend. We always talk like, this is not right, or Canada is this, or the tax system is this, or my property taxes are so high. If we don't actually try to make our city better or try to make our lives better, then we can't sit there and talk on the sidelines and just talk the talk in the coffee shops, right?
100%.
I think we need to put our money where our mouth is and really try to make our city a better place.
I know we started off a little strong there on the election. Let's go back into business. So, Hussein, right now you're at Meridan.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit more about your role there, what you do, what's it entail, and how someone can get in touch with you.
Yeah, so I don't know if I have to put a disclaimer that my thoughts and views are my own. It's not Meridian.
Totally.
So I'm a senior relationship manager with Meridian. It's a commercial role in commercial banking. We're a credit union, not a bank, so there's a little bit differences there. But most importantly, my team's amazing. That's the one thing that really brought me there. I work with great colleagues, people that are just amazing. My leaders are great. So I'm not just saying that to boost myself or try to get a bigger bonus at the end of the year, even though I wouldn't mind one. But I think the team that I have is great. And I think what we do is we call them members. They're not clients. We put them first, and we want to do. I heard you saying something in a podcast. I did a bit of my homework where you're a servant to your clients. It's the same
100%.
idea. It's about being upfront and helping your clients.
And that's the thing too. Like, if you're not serving your clients, you shouldn't be in business. Simple as that.
100%. Yeah.
Tell me a little bit more about the difference between a credit union and a bank.
Yeah, so a bank is a financial institution that's governed by laws in Canada. Same idea with the credit unions, but the credit unions, there's no shareholders. Every member is a shareholder. So you pay $1, for example, in a bank account, and you're a shareholder. Whereas the bigger banks have boards, they have shareholders. So it's a little bit different where you kind of feel it when you're in there. There's not a change where shareholders want X amount of returns on the stock, whereas the credit unions is our members are our shareholders. So we give back to the community. We have, especially with Meridian, I think they give 3% of top line revenues back to the community. So we're really trying to help improve our communities, and at the same time, not to say that the big banks don't, but there's a different feel and a different atmosphere in the credit unions.
So it's more like a family, really, like a family-run business in a way, just for lack of a better term, to like be able to kind of take the members and treat them like back in the olden days where, like, you'll put in a little bit of money, I'll put in a little bit of money, and we all go and buy this piece of land kind of thing, in a way.
We have the same services that the big 5 banks do. I think at the end of the day, we're not trying to reinvent the wheel. Just like there's other real estate agents. We're all doing the same thing. We're all trying to help out our clients. It's more of the person you're dealing with. So I like to make myself my own brand. I know my colleagues do the same, and it's really we've built that reputation where our previous clients know us and they don't care who we're with. They're going to want to deal with us. So I think that's the most important thing, and the same probably in your space as well.
One thing also you've touched on is commercial. Most people don't understand what commercial is all about. And when you say commercial, some people, the first thought that comes to head is like that commercial that's going to come up here mid-episode. maybe we need to kind of, let them know a little bit
Yeah.
more what commercial real estate looks like.
Yeah, so there's different departments and sectors in banking. There's obviously your retail banking, your investments, your private banking, and then on the business side, there's usually a small business team which are going to handle, your medium and smaller enterprises, your mom and pop shops, and it's really dictated by like the credit or the facility that people want. So the dollar amount. Small business will usually go up to loans of 1 million. That's just some banks might differ a little bit. Whereas commercial banking, it's a little bit more complex, where the loan sizes are much larger. You're able to leverage different securities like inventory, and really there's a little bit more complex scenarios in commercial banking because you're dealing with larger corporations, larger loan sizes, and there's a lot more analysis that goes into your loans, but it's really the same thing. So it's business banking, commercial banking, but so it's been a good run, and I'm excited to be in the position I'm in.
And what's your ideal client look like?
Yeah, I mean, our ideal client is someone who's been in business probably for more than 3 to 5 years, someone who's been established, especially in the commercial space. When it's small business, it's a little bit different, but someone who's more established, someone who, especially what I'm looking to do is people who are owner-occupied spaces, someone who has a manufacturing business that owns their property or is looking to buy their property to move into, where we can, leverage a higher loan to value to our clients. I think that's what we're looking for. But, there's always this perception that banks don't want to help business people. And I think we need to educate, especially people that are trying to get into business, is to say, hey, whether it's insurance or it's financing, it's all about mitigating risk. When you're a new business and you're going into an industry, for example, like a restaurant, it's a riskier place, right? So it's not that we don't want to help you out, but it's about understanding what you need to do, making sure that you put skin in the game, that you're putting money down, making sure that you're talking to an accountant and understanding what projections should be and realistic projections. Because I think a lot of business owners, especially that are starting out, want to be a jack of all trades. They want to do everything. They want to cut costs, but it's about understanding what your value is.
Yeah.
I'm good in this. Let's get an accountant who can help me because they're good in this. Some business owners want to, especially old school business owners, they want to be able to hand their paycheck to their employees. And I understand it. Some people, they worked hard, they've struggled, and they got to that point. But it's understanding as well, like there's a payroll system that can cut that time and you can be more efficient. So I think there's so many different aspects to business owners, and I'm not someone who I'll only talk to someone who's looking for a loan of over 1.5 million. I'll have that conversation, even though I'm not going to be able to do anything for them, but I might be able to give them a little nugget of knowledge that they can move forward in their business.
And in your experience, what have you seen sort of like the biggest misconception that business owners have about banks?
Yeah, I think the biggest misconception is maybe banks don't want to help them, or they're constantly changing their relationship manager or their account manager. And it's understanding that, people that are in the banking system have aspirations, or that work in banks, they have aspirations. They want to move up. They want to be able to try. So if you work for one of the big 5 banks, if you're in investments, maybe sometimes you want to try, private banking, or you want to get into business banking. So you're changing your role. So business owners feel like, oh, I've had 3 different relationship managers in the last 5 years. And it's tough for that new person coming in, taking over that book, because then they get all the issues and the problems. So I think it's educating people that, hey, it's okay that you might have a new relationship manager. Be upfront with them. Be understanding. Most banks are going to have a CRM system that they can look at notes and see what's happening in the past. But we do want to help people out. I think for myself, we touched on it earlier. Like I want to treat people how I want to be treated, right? If I can't help you, I'll be upfront with you and tell you that there's nothing I can do. I might help you out with like a broker on the private side to say, hey, talk to this person. But we do want to help people out. We're salespeople at the end of the day. We want to be able to hit our targets and
salespeople indeed, for sure. And
that's in an ethical way, in an ethical way, for sure.
Big time. And that's actually one of the misconceptions that we have a lot in real estate, is that like it's not. At the end of the day, it is still a sales job.
Yeah,
it is through and through full sales job from start to end. From the moment that you get the client all the way to fruition, it's all a sales methodology, how you move them forward, what you do and how you do it. And and at some point, because of that misconception of that I work in real estate, it's not a sales job. A lot of real estate agents I find really suck when it comes to that for like the biggest issue, which is basically lead generation.
Yeah.
Getting people into the funnel.
And I think for us, when we worked together, I think that was an industry when we worked in telecom. You have to be a hunter. You have to be okay to try new things. You have to be okay with picking up the phone and calling people, and you have to be okay with going to a business park and knocking on doors. I'll give you a small little story. So when I worked at CIBC prior to going to Meridan, I had a very unique role. It was called a business development manager role, where I had no book of business. My job was to hunt net new business to the bank. just straight new business to the bank, and I couldn't get leads from the bank. It was just organic leads for myself. So I started looking at myself, what can I do? What can I do to generate? Because I was probably 3-4 years into banking, but I still hadn't established myself to the point where I had those lead generations of the COIs and the different accounts. So I looked at what the products we had at CIBC, and we had a great professional package with packages for dentists, doctors. And then I said, okay, what's a niche area that I can do in? And I said, okay, I'm going to target dentists. How can I target dentists? I have to walk in. It's tough. You have a gatekeeper, which is the front desk lady or the man or
Sorry,
whoever.
do you have an appointment?
Yeah, exactly. So I said, how can I break this? I started buying Timbits. So I'd buy a box of Timbits, and it's funny, Sarwar will make you laugh about this. He would call me the Timbit guy for a bit. I would pick a street, so let's say Innis Road, I'd buy 20 packs of Timbits, find all the different dental places, I'd have a brochure with my picture, with our product, and I would go in, and you'd be surprised how many meetings I got out of just giving Timbits. It's like they were obliged to get me a meeting because I brought them something. Mm-hmm. So it's about being true to yourself, doing something you're comfortable with, even in an uncomfortable spot, but trying new things. And if something doesn't work, it's okay, pivot to the next thing. But I was able to close business off going in with Timbits and getting meetings, and then you would learn more of the business.
Timbits for the close, baby.
So it was a good story.
So it's not, Timbits are not only universal with kids, because I used to get my kids to do whatever the heck I want them to do with a little bit of Timbits. So apparently Timbits are not just for kids.
Yeah, and it was a funny thing because you'd go in, you'd make a joke like, I know this is probably not the best place because it's sugary, it's for your teeth, but maybe it gives you more business for your dentist. But it was a good story, and I learned more about dentistry. I was able to figure out who the suppliers are, how projections work, because when you're building a new office, you have to put projections in place with an accountant. So I was able to learn as I went on and not fake it till I make it, but I was actually learning as I went on. And I was able to close more business. I was able to get, leads from dentists who would say, I had a great experience with Hussein. Go talk to Hussein. It was going great, and then COVID hit.
I mean, that's the thing, though, with I find with any niche like this, or niche, whatever you want to call it, Canadian, American, if you pick that niche properly and you serve them really, really, really well, they open up so many doors for you.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's so easy because they all know each other. It's like a love-hate relationship, but they all know each other. And it's just so simple to say, well, yeah, he's my guy. Talk to him for this.
Yeah, and I think when you deal with different business owners too, when you do a good job with them, business owners know other business owners. They know their suppliers. They know other businesses. They know people who are in their, their neighbors and whatnot.
I'm getting that with the commercial real estate right now. It's like you help somebody find a lease or whatever, and you help them with buying a building. And oh, hey, by the way, so-and-so is starting up a business. Here's his story, blah, blah, blah. Talk to him. I've already talked to him for you.
Yeah.
Thanks, buddy.
Yeah.
Next. And it's just the way it works. And one thing that I've noticed about you, you've always been on the entrepreneurial side. But how do you feel with this role, your entrepreneurial skills kind of comes to fruition?
Yeah, I think just a bit of background. My parents immigrated from Lebanon to Canada in the early 70s, and my family is all entrepreneurs. My parents had restaurants when I grew up, and, my dad has 7 brothers, all entrepreneurs, all,
one of them is my favorite. You know who?
So they're successful in their regards. My mom has 4 sisters, 2 brothers, entrepreneurs as well, or their husbands are entrepreneurs. So, and you can probably relate to that. And most immigrants who are in Canada, they had to kind of think outside the box and be entrepreneurs. So I grew up with that mentality. And, I look back and I always I would always say it. My dad came to Canada when he was 18. I would just tell people, oh, my dad's been here since, the 70s. Or my mom came when she, like in 76 or whatever, and my mom was a nurse back in Lebanon and came and ended up working in the restaurants. But I said it so much, but until I got older, I understood, like, my dad came here when he was 18 years old, didn't understand English, spoke a bit of French. But imagine being in a new place, not having friends, not knowing anything, and just kind of figuring out, right? So they sacrificed so much, and looking back, you really appreciate that. And I don't want to get sentimental or cry on this thing, but
we have some
you appreciate that, and you pick that up, right? And you want to be able to give that to different people. So for myself, especially, you can attest to this as well, you have to be an entrepreneur. You have to treat it like it's your own business, because if you're going to sit back home and expect leads to come to you or expect things to come to you, that's not how life works, right?
Yeah, and I feel like sometimes you have to be a little bit vulnerable too. Like, you're putting yourself out there to people. Like, I'll give you some of my experience when I came when I was 16, right? So like a lot of my experience trying to get in new jobs when I could hardly speak French or English, couldn't speak a word of French, but English even was very, very minimal. And then just literally going door to door into restaurants and clothing stores and whatever. And, hey, I'm looking for a job. And I couldn't even say, hey, I'm looking for a job. It was a little, like, you know what I mean? Like, my English was so bad. but I still was able to get a job because I just showed that tenacity and then just willing to, like, no matter what, I'm still going to walk in.
Yeah, it's a tough
And
age.
that's one of the biggest stories that we have as immigrants, is that willing to put yourself out there.
Yeah, and especially we talked about the campaign that I ran for city council. I have a very distinct name. My name's Hussein Mahmoud. There's no hiding it. You know what religion I am. You're gonna have an understanding where I'm from originally. So that was a challenge that I had to go through, where you're knocking on doors and people looking at you. Oh, this is you. Oh, wow. Or you speak great English. And it's like, I'm born and raised here, right? Like, I can speak English, I can speak French, I can speak Arabic, right? And so a lot of people, we came in here, the heroes of the show are the editors, and we talked about this off camera before you were here. They came to Canada recently, and he was one of the editors was telling me he was from India, and he worked 6 years in this. And so we kind of take these things for granted. We say them a lot, but we don't understand the challenges that people go through.
Yeah.
And I think that's the beauty of being in business banking, commercial banking. You hear those stories. It's even though the habits and the characteristics of all business owners are all the same. It's like my father. They took a risk, they worked hard, but I love hearing that story. And I think everyone wants to be that relationship person, that relationship bank, that relationship real estate. We say it a lot, but what does it truly be? It's being able to connect the different types of people, being able to really look at their problem and put a solution together. And if you can't find that solution, it's about being upfront and telling them early on that, hey, this can't be done. But this is what you can do to get it done in the future.
But a lot of the times I find like it's more like I don't want to say like a doctor, but it is kind of like a doctor. Like, you got to tell me everything. Tell me all the information that I need, honestly, for me to be able to honestly give you that advice that I think will work for you.
Yeah, and I think you asked that question about a misconception. I think sometimes business owners feel that they don't want to give all the information, which, how am I supposed to give you a proper solution if I don't get all that? And some people want to be guarded, and they feel like I can't tell him because he knows my other business partner, or I don't want to give all the information. And some people want to give off this front that they're doing so well, but their financials are not doing well, so they don't want to share that information. So I think in your case, in my case, we need to know everything that's going on. Especially in my case, there's so many legal documents. We need our financial statements, which is really going to tell you the synopsis of their business. We need to see their tax returns. We need to see their personal net worth. So they have to be vulnerable in that position to say, even though I'm showing off that I'm doing so well, that maybe my business is not doing well, or vice versa. I live a modest life, but my business is doing so well. So they have to be open to sharing that information, because that's the only way for us to put forth our best solution. Because some clients will come to you and say, I need this, this, and this. And then you look at it and you're like, with all due respect, no, I don't think you need this. I think we should do this, or we should leverage this, use this as security, right? It's about being a little bit understanding about them, and not disregarding their expertise, but letting them know that, hey, this is what I think we should do. And if they don't want to do it, that's fine. But I think businesses need to be more vulnerable in that position as well.
You have to, and that's the only way for you to like really get that honest, authentic advice. If you're being honest with all your problems up front, you're going to be honest with all the solutions that you could give. We'll miss a solution, or you'll miss an opportunity if you don't actually tell the truth.
Yeah, 100%. And when I was door knocking in that campaign election, I had a rule of thumb that I wanted to be true. You can't flip flop, right? You can't tell one person, yeah, I agree with this, and the next person, yeah, I agree with this, even though it's different. So I think being, someone who's centered, and someone who's knows what they want, and being open, I think, especially when we worked together at Rogers, right? Like, I was a young guy, just brand new to B2B sales. You're surrounded with people who are really good. And if you sit there and you look at the person next to you who's killing it on the sales, and you be like, this guy does nothing. If you have that mentality, like, I'm just going to sit back and wait for things to come to me. But then when you have a conversation with them, and it's like, hey, I've built my business for 10 years. I put in the work. I've been in the trenches. I have connections. Now I get leads that come to me. So you're able to be like a sponge. So you want to be like centered, but you want to be able to take little things from your colleagues. What is it that they say? Okay, make it your own. You stay true to yourself, but you have to be open to different things. And I think that's key for really expanding in your career development.
I'm glad that you brought this up. This is kind of like that whole thing of like, oh, must be nice. I hate it when I hear that. When someone says, oh, must be nice. Oh, so-and-so just did this. Oh, must be nice.
Or he got lucky. Or he got lucky that this.
Exactly. But what they haven't seen is all that shit, that hard work, that freaking grind that they've done day in, day out, every morning, waking up really early, sleeping late, doing all of that stuff to just be able to get where they are today. They haven't seen any of that.
Yeah.
That's kind of like in my opinion, it's like looking at the tip. You're only really looking at the tip of the iceberg. You haven't seen what's under the surface, all of the work that they put in. Sure, they look like they're easy, relaxed right now, but like some of the guys that we were talking about, very easy, very relaxed, and then they're killing their targets.
Yeah, and it's a testament of the work that they put in, and you can't it's like that picture of, I don't know if this really correlates, but it's the first thing that came to my mind. It's like that picture of that father that has like the ripped up pants and is walking with his son, and then you look at the son, he has the patches of his father's pants. You don't know what it took for them to get there and the sacrifices that people took, especially people that are, everyone that's successful, whether you're a real estate agent, an accountant, commercial banker, a business owner, they've put in the work. It's very rare that you're going to find, especially in Ottawa, there's a lot of self-made people here, right? So those people put in the work to get there, even though that's not highlighted, right? People want to see the fancy cars. People want to see that. Go back 30 years. Those people didn't have that. They're coming from modest beginnings. They're coming from war-torn countries.
Yeah.
They're coming from people, maybe their parents were divorced at a young age. They put the work in. It sucks that those are the stories that are not highlighted publicly, but when you're in our roles, you can kind of find that. And those are the stories I love, and those are the people that you want to help and go to war with.
So you've been in Ottawa for all of your all of your life, basically.
Born and raised.
What do you think of Ottawa?
I mean, I love it. I'm going to be honest. I love Ottawa. I know Ottawa has that stigma of being a boring city, a government town. Especially as you get a bit older and you have a family like myself, I think Ottawa is a great place to live. It's a secure place. The government is there. It's the biggest employer in Canada, so there's great opportunities in working, and especially for people who want a stable job like the government's an amazing opportunity. But Ottawa, you know what you're going to get. It's kind of like what I was saying earlier. I like to tell clients what we can do and can't do up front. Ottawa, you know what you're going to get. It's not a Toronto, it's not a Montreal, but it's not a small town either. No. So I think one of the true beauties of Ottawa, which I don't think people take advantage of, is the natural scenery across.
The weather.
Weather's not the...
Weather's fantastic. What do you mean, man?
The weather's
We've
not
got 4 full seasons. It's one of the few cities in the world that will have 4 full seasons, defined, really defined.
Okay.
Spring is very springy. Smells, whatever, but it's very spring.
Yeah.
Lots of rain. You got your summer, nice and hot, humid as hell.
Yeah.
You still be able to go enjoy
Are
the
you
beach
keeping winter
and
to
all
the
that.
last, or what?
And then, yeah, you don't want to scare people. And then you've got the fall. The fall is nice and scenic. You've got the trees, the colors, all of that. You're able to go to the Gatineau Park. You're able to, everywhere.
I'm curious to see what you're going to say about winter.
And then winter, miserable.
Miserable. It's tough. If you
And
listen,
it,
if you want to
it
be,
will last for
if you
like 3 months.
if you ski and you
You'll have fun.
snowboard, it's fun. I don't do that stuff, but I love the outdoors in the sense of summertime. I believe it or not, I fish a lot. I love fishing, and Ottawa's a great place to fish. We have 2 rivers. We have the Ottawa River, the Rideau River. We have a bunch of lakes, all within like an hour drive, right? So it's a great place, and especially the scenery, right? When you bring someone, for example, from outside of Canada or from the Middle East, and you come and you bring them to like something you take for like Gatineau Park, you say, well, Gatineau Park, whatever,
or Long Sault, or
and they're like, wow,
Upper
look at
Canada.
this is beautiful. And so we take these things for granted, and I think one of the challenges in Ottawa is probably our infrastructure. We have issues with the LRT, we have issues with lack of different highways. It's tough. Like Ottawa's a very...
They should have voted you in.
They should have.
We could have changed some
But it's
of those.
okay. It's okay. I always tell people I wasn't desperate for a job. I wanted to make change, but I wasn't. So I'm happy where I'm at. But Ottawa, the thing that's challenging with Ottawa is that Ottawa is such a huge geographical city. Like Ottawa is amalgamation of different municipalities.
It's like 12 different
right? So in early
municipalities
2000s, they amalgamated. So if you look at Ottawa, you can take like Toronto proper, you can take Vancouver, Montreal, Calgary, Edmonton, and Ottawa's still bigger. Like Ottawa goes from just before Arnprior,
95 kilometers.
all the way up to Rockland.
You can ask the Ottawa Police for this. The Ottawa Police probably is the most worked police force, and being on the road, the most worked police force ever.
Yeah.
Because of the geographical location. We've got about 95 kilometers.
So you know this stuff, yeah. So
Oh, yeah.
I don't have to preach to you, but add on top of that is we're national capital, so we have protests, we have delegates who are coming in from different, presidents and prime ministers across the world. So Ottawa's a very unique place. But I think if you sit there and look back, like I'm very fortunate to live here. We have a very vibrant community, different ethnicities. I'm born and raised in Ottawa South, which is a great place. When I went to high school, you had people that were from higher income, lower income, different backgrounds, immigrants, refugees. And it's something that's so beautiful because you get a great perspective on life, right? You're not stuck with your community and stuck with the same views that you've had your whole life. No, you're exposed to different things, and you're able to, like I talked about earlier, you're a sponge. You take little things, you try different foods. And I think that's the beauty of Canada and Ottawa together.
What are your thoughts on Ottawa being the shawarma capital of Canada?
I mean, that's near and dear to my heart. My uncles, I have an uncle who has a shawarma restaurant. My father-in-law is one of like the pioneers of shawarma. So my father-in-law is he started Shawarma Palace, right? So he's a pioneer in the shawarma space. So I love it. I'm there's certain things that I won't eat. Like I don't eat garlic, for example. which is like a
Whoa.
a
Whoa.
faux pas in our community. But I just don't like what it does to me, right? But it's crazy because Ottawa has its own unique shawarma. Like if you go to Jordan, Palestine, Lebanon, it doesn't look
It's
like
different.
that.
It's different.
And especially when you show pictures to people back home of your shawarma, like, what is this mountain of food? You have potatoes, rice,
Yeah.
salad, chicken, beef. Like, this is like, there's rules. Because when you go buy shawarma, for example, in the Middle East, you don't get to sit there and say, I want tomatoes, I want lettuce. You get a chicken shawarma, it's a set sandwich. You want a beef shawarma, it's a set sandwich. There's no mixing and matching. So I think Ottawa's done a good job about it. I think it would be, the one thing I think maybe people of Arab background is they can learn from each other is kind of work together. Don't work for someone and then try to open your own spot and then it fails. Like, immerse yourself. It's okay to be an employee sometimes, but I think it's a proud thing that we're the shawarma capital.
That's literally comes hand in hand with the whole immigrant thing, where like we just entrepreneur by nature. We don't want to kind of have our own business, our own autonomy.
Yeah.
And especially a lot of us have been oppressed or have been, sort of leaving a war-torn country, whatever the case may be. They come here and they want that freedom.
They don't want anyone on top of them.
They don't want anyone telling them
what to do.
It's
like building a shed with your dad.
Oh, I can't remember the last time I've done something with my dad. Man, I can't do rules. I can't do like you do this. Like no.
Yeah.
That's one of the reasons why we're in business for ourselves.
Exactly.
Is that
I'm not in business but it's the same principles, right? It's understanding that you have to put the same expectations. But yeah, I think a lot of people think that being an entrepreneur is an easy thing. It's we've all tried a side hustle. We've all failed. I've failed a side hustle. It's okay. You can move on ahead with that. But I think at the same time, you can't have that mindset that I don't want anyone on top of me. Yeah, it's good to be a business owner. Yeah, it's good to do your own thing. But at the same time, it's good to work in a structure of a larger corporation because you get those different business administrative efficiencies that you learn from that.
Yeah,
you become much more
little minutia that you learn throughout that. No matter what, unless you have the experience, you can't bring. You just can't learn it.
100%. Dealing with HR is one thing. If you're a business owner and you fire someone, you need to understand, like, hey, there's a legal implications to this. And you kind of learn that when you work for a larger corporation. Yeah. You see sometimes, unfortunately, some of your colleagues get written up or get that STIP or whatever, or not the STIP. What was it called? The plan, the performance.
The
performance plan. So it's cool to work in a larger corporation because you get those efficiencies and you understand how businesses work. But at the same time, I'm a true believer in doing what makes you happy, right? If you want to do something and you want to take that challenge and you want to go ahead and be an entrepreneur, I think it's a great opportunity. But it's not a fault if someone is working in a corporation. Like,
no, not at all.
Especially
to each their own. I mean, at the end of the day, we all need employees. Even as business owners, we still need employees. There's nothing against it. There's nothing wrong about it. It's just you and your personality, what you're made for. And you got to find that on your own. Nobody's going to find it for you.
Yeah, and I think especially today with like the quick videos, the quick Instagram videos, the quick YouTube shorts, I'm a self-made millionaire, or I'm a self-made this, or I'm driving the nice car. That's great. I'm not hating on that whatsoever. I love people that I know that are doing well, but it's okay for you to be an employee. It's okay for you to want to be an employee, get yourself up, build that security that you have, and then try things out. Like, it shouldn't be a fault either way. Whatever makes you happy. I mean, money is not the end goal.
Especially in a city like Ottawa, right?
Yeah.
Like you can't say, oh, it's not okay to be an employee when we've got like 90% of homes have a government worker at some point.
Yeah.
They're all employees. They all want to just go in the 7 to 3, go home, and that's one of the reasons why people call Ottawa boring. It's not that, everybody wants to go to sleep on time.
Yeah.
Right? It doesn't mean anything. All it means is at the end of the day, this is what you're really good at, and you're okay with being an employee. Completely fine. That's what suits you.
Yeah.
But for some people, that's not what the suits.
And that's fine.
You need to be a little bit more creative.
Fine.
You need to be a little bit out there, kind of thing.
I think life is about looking yourself in the mirror and understanding what your strengths are and accepting your weaknesses. Right.
Yeah.
And I think for myself, especially on a day-to-day basis, I like to surround myself with internal COIs, our internal partners. And if I'm going to a meeting and I'm not quite confident on a specific aspect, I'll bring a colleague. And I'm not that guy that wants to just hold all my clients or wants to keep all my COIs to myself. I'm okay with bringing a business partner.
What's a COI, by the way?
A center of influence, someone who's gonna refer you people or be your advocate.
I knew it, but I just wanted to bring it to our audience and just make sure that they know what Hussein is talking about here.
Yeah. So back to my point is, I'm okay with bringing the right people to the table as part of my network. I think it shows strength.
Yeah.
And it's okay to say that I'm weaker in this part, and this is someone who can cover up in that weakness. And you're gonna learn. It's like talking about what I did about dentists. I took that risk. I dealt with more dentists. I got more familiar with it. And I became a subject matter expert. But It's the same idea when you're meeting with a client. Bring your partners. It's okay to have, and then the client will look at you and be like, "Wow, I feel so important that you're bringing 4 of your
100%.
employees."
And not only that, sometimes like the little extra experience that partner has, or that sometimes it might not be a partner, it might be like a business partner of some different aspect. You're not going to be able to be the jack of all trades. And if you think that way, you shouldn't be in business.
Yeah,
You know, you do need to have all those different pieces. And
100%.
a lot of the projects are going to be multiple people that are involved. And yeah, absolutely. Like if you don't bring them, I think you're actually giving your client a disservice.
100%. I think, like I talked about earlier, like, the unsung heroes of podcasts are like the editors, the videographers. In the real estate world, it's your administrative assistant that's kind of running the show. Even though that you're the face of the company, the people in the back end are so important,
100%.
right? And I think it's about understanding that. And it's going back to that early business owner. You want to be able to do everything. You want to be able to do your projections. You really want to cut costs. You want to find the cheapest construction person to build your place. But you realize as you get older and as you get more business that, hey, it's better to consult with a professional. It's better to spend money to make money. And if you do put skin in the game, you're going to feel more of a challenge that you need to make this succeed, right? And it's not about cutting
We have
corners.
a saying, actually, like, I don't know if you have the same saying back in Lebanon, but we used to say, give the bread to the bread maker, even if he eats half of it.
I've never
At
heard
least
that,
it's done
but
right.
yeah.
And then that's always been kind of my mantra. Like, hey, if I'm about to do a roof, well, I'm not a roofer, so I'm just going to bring a roofer to do it.
Yeah.
And sure, it's going to cost me, but at least I know it's going to be done right. If I'm for example, general contractor and I'm dealing with something and I know, for example, drywalling is not really my thing, well, I'm going to bring somebody to do the drywalling because that's not my thing. And I know it's going to be done right. And yeah, sure, I'm not making that much profit on it, but it's still okay. It's going to be 100% done right. And that's the idea, is that always look for professionals to do the work that you need them to work. Because that's the best way to make sure that your clients are getting the best service out of it.
100%. But I do admire like the DIYers. I do admire them because I'm not good with like woodwork or like tools in general.
Yeah.
Like I'm not good at that stuff, and I accept that. But I do appreciate the people who try different things, who will try something and get good at it and then offer it to a family member. Hey, I just made an accent wall. You want me to do it for you? Even though you're a little bit hesitant, you're like, yeah, let's go for it. But so I do appreciate that. Don't get me wrong.
There's nothing wrong with them. Absolutely nothing wrong with them. It just sometimes when it's when you're like looking at something for a commercial purpose. For example, like let's say I'm looking at a house and I'm, trying to see what they've done, the work that they've done. If it's a DIY, I'm like, I'm not really sure. Like we need an inspector to check this out.
Yeah.
We got to make sure to bring an electrician to give us the stamp of approval and all of that stuff. So sometimes it might be great, but if you're looking at, later on in the future, you're going to sell it, maybe a DIY is not really the bright
But I
idea.
still admire it. I still admire the
100%. Me too.
the
'Cause at the end of the day,
striving
like,
to learn something.
You're always trying to improve yourself. And that's one way of kind of putting yourself to the test is by DIY.
Yeah, but I do believe in efficiencies, right? We talked about it earlier. It's understanding your strengths and being more efficient because time is money. You're going to hear all the people talk about, especially the entrepreneurs, time is money. So it's about surrounding yourself. I think the key message that I wanted to put out is surrounding yourself with strong people and
Right
understanding
partners.
what your weaknesses are and trying to be a sponge and soak in all the knowledge that you can.
With that being said, just from your experience with the banking and what have you, what would you say the biggest sort of kind of like repeating theme, if you will, with those business entrepreneurs coming in that makes you excited every time you deal with them?
It's the story. It really is. And I sound like a broken record, but I love seeing the finished product, but I also love seeing the unfinished product. I love both aspects of it. I love going into someone and say, meeting with them, and I can give an example. We had one business owner who had a restaurant, successful restaurant in Gatineau, and they had a vision to buy another property. And we were able to help them out. We were able to do a commercial loan on their existing property. They bought a new property, so they would give them a little bit more funds to work with. And then, they did the build, and you come back and you see the place finished, and you see the smile on the owner's face, and they give you that hug and say, you were able to make this happen, even though it wasn't just me. It was like, it's not my father's company. It's the bank.
Yeah.
But that joy that you get of, I don't want to like this to be a sound, but like the hunt and kill, like when when the finished product's there, I love that. I love seeing that. But I also love going in with a business owner who's been there for 30 years, hearing their story. I started off with one truck and now we're a fleet of 100 trucks. I love hearing that story. So that's the thing I enjoy most about my job. It's hearing that because it relates me back to what my father did or what my uncles did. It really brings that home feel because I love that. It's something that I enjoy, but I also love seeing people that I know do well. I love seeing the updates on LinkedIn, seeing that, oh, I'm now promoted to this role, or I just started this business. I love seeing that. I love seeing the posts of realtors that I know that are selling homes and doing well, and mortgage brokers that are doing well. So I love all that stuff. I really try not to be a hater in any way because I want people around me to do well, and I love hearing the stories of success.
So because you see a lot of business owners and you see them through the struggle and you see them also through on the other end as well too, what are one of the, if you were to leave the audience with some of the couple of advices, what would it be?
I think you need to be able to pivot. If we look back to COVID, a lot of business owners, the pandemic came. It wasn't something that we knew about. And unfortunately, a lot of businesses suffered that final knockout punch. But a lot of businesses looked at themselves and said, hey, we have to pivot. We have to have an online presence. We have to be able to change our hours of operation. We have to be able to do something which they've never been open to doing before. So I think life and business is about pivoting, understanding what you're good at, looking yourself in the mirror and saying, hey, we're struggling in this part. Let me talk to an accountant. Let me leverage my accountant. Maybe my accountant knows a lawyer that we need to structure something different. I think you need to be able to pivot, and it's a good thing. Change is good at times. Sometimes change is bad, but you really have to be able to look yourself in the mirror and say, hey, things are not good or things are good. What can we do to get to the next step? Yeah. And have that, that 30, 90, 120 day or that 5-year plan of realistic goals that you can achieve. It's sometimes you get caught up in things and you forget. I'm
glad you touched on that 30, 60, 90 day plan. That was the bane of my existence when I was in sales. But to be honest with you, I'm still in sales, but it's just the thought of being able to kind of put your thoughts in a plan of what you're going to do for the next 60 to 90 days. I think that by itself just kind of sets you up for success as a business.
100%. I know I've talked a lot. I've kind of hogged the mic in this interview, but I think you need to really not get caught up in things, right? Like especially time. I just feel like time is flying by. I'm 37 years old. I just feel like high school is gone like this. University was gone like this. Try not to get too lost. Have those goals that, remember what you started, why you started doing something, right? Remember why you got into real estate and what it was for, and especially if you're an employee, you're going to have changes in commission plans. You're going to have changes in ownership. You're going to have, that manager that you love get promoted and then you have a new manager, or you're going to have someone that you disliked and then you're going to have a new manager. You're going to have a new colleague. There's going to be so many changes, but really focus on what you can control. I know I sound very corporate right now, but focus on what you can control.
Remember at Rogers, they used to say this: the only constant we have is change.
Yeah.
So last thing I wanted to do, we've been talking about this show for quite some time. You and I, we've had it on the calendar for probably a good month and a half.
Yeah, you're busy. You're a busy man.
With that being said, I'm sure you've had some thoughts of some things that you want to bring up or say on the show. So I'll let you be. This is kind of your last opportunity.
Yeah, no, I think, we touched on, my political aspirations. It's not that I had aspirations. It's just I felt like, especially in a community like Ottawa South, with such a diverse background and different ethnicities, religions, I think there needs to be, we always talk about diversity today. We can't have companies talk about diversity with all their VPs being of one color. We need to kind of put our money where our mouths are, right? So I think we need more diversity. And I think we need more peoples of different backgrounds and different views. And I think, we're getting to that point. I wanted to touch on, we, especially being a son of an immigrant, we kind of forget the stories and we always say it and you don't really think of it. My parents worked 7 days a week. My parents owned a restaurant and they served breakfast as well. So they worked 7 days a week. The only day off they had was Christmas. They would open up the restaurant. They would come home. My mom would come home in the morning, get us ready for school, and go back to work. And then my dad would come, bring us lunch after with me and my brother, and then we would go. And then he would go back to work. So there's things that, you don't really appreciate and you kind of appreciate later on in life. And I'm truly grateful that because I know so many people. I look at my wife, it's the same thing. Her father did the same thing. I'm sure your father did the same thing. I'm sure, her father, a lot of people did that they sacrificed a lot for their kids, and they did. And I think us as getting into that stage, we can't lose sight of that. I know we want to chase money. I know we want to do well. We want to be able to have things that we enjoy in life, but being able to go to your kid's soccer practice or being able to be home when your kid or pick up your kid from school and they have that smile on their face, or picking up your kid from daycare.
I think that's
those are
the
those
success.
Yeah, those are the moments that fly
makes
by.
it all worth it,
right? Like my daughter is going to be 5 soon, and my son's 2. And I'm looking at videos now of my daughter when she was younger, and it just flies by, right? Like that laugh of that 2-year-old is just such an incredible feeling. You know, the questions of the 4-year-old, and they're finding themselves. There's annoyance at times, but I think we need to be able to truly embrace it. I heard you talking about trusting the process or loving the process. It's the same idea. I think we cannot get blinded by those goals. We cannot get blinded that, hey, I need to move to Dubai and I need to do this, and that's all I want to do. And then I'm going to forget about everyone here and just strive to make the money and screw people over. Like, that's not life. Life is, it's good to make money, but it's better to be a good person. It's better to be respected. Like, I might not be the most loved person, but I know that you're not going to find many people that be like, I hate Hussein. They might not love me, but I don't think you're going to find people that are going to be like, I hate this guy. This guy is, a liar. I really try to be a proper ambassador for my community, for myself, for my family, purposely. When I'm off camera, I'm going to be a little bit less polished, but I do it on purpose because I want to conduct myself in a positive way. I want to be able for that client to be like, I love this guy, I'm going to refer him people. I want that to be my thing, or the thing that people remember from me.
That's amazing, man. Hussein, thank you so much for being on the show. I really appreciate it. And if you guys like what you see, please don't forget to hit the like, subscribe so you can get a lot more episodes like this. And again, thank you so much. Really appreciate it, bud.
Hey, man, it's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Perfect.